The Portland Trailblazers found a new TV partner. The WNBA is coming to PDX, and we have our Blazers guards preview ahead of training camp starting next week. All that and maybe a little bit more here on the Blazer Focus podcast. I am Fentress of the Oregonian and OregonLive, and I'm joined by Craig Birnbach. Craig, we are less than a week away from the Blazers hitting the practice court in preparation for the season. The first preseason game, I think, is in 2 weeks. Blazers Fan Fest is a week from this weekend.
Nuts.
Bro, it's basically here. It just hit me in the head. I got to write some camp previews here in the next couple of days. And then I'm doing WNBA related stories as well. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm trying to focus on Caleb Williams and the Bears and what's going on there. And now all of a sudden the Blazers are creeping up and ruining my vibe. But anyway, are you ready? Are you ready for some NBA hoops?
You just threw the Bears in there. I would say this is like my favorite time of the year because you got baseball playoffs coming. You got NFL, regular season kind of hitting the stride. Right. And then you got basketball entering the mix. You throw in a little MLS end of year playoff stuff. Like, this is when I love my child, but I'm like, oh man, his parents think they're getting away, all of a sudden, but this is my, I love that. One of the things I miss about covering Blazers like on an everyday basis is training camp. The new guys coming in, old guys coming back. I love this time because it's when everything's going at once, and you never have to, you don't have enough time to catch up on everything. And I'd rather have that than, sometimes, in the summer, there's a day off for the Yankees. I'm like, well, what am I going to pay attention to?
You're walking around like, what do I do with myself? Speaking of the children thing, so 20 years ago, I had a custom-built entertainment center in our old house that held spots for 3 TVs. And mainly so that was so I could watch 3 football games.
You were ahead of the curve.
Oh, it was amazing. I'll send you a picture of it. It was pretty. I literally wrote out the design, took it to a builder, and they made it. And the builder looked at it and he was like, "Are you serious right now?" I go, "Yep." And then looked at my wife, and she was like, "Yeah." She approved it, which was amazing. But anyway, then our children were born, and it became a situation where they want to watch, a cartoon or Aladdin for the 90th time. But I got 3 TVs, so they can watch Aladdin, but I don't miss the football game. And I can watch 2 football games. It was amazing. But anyway, that's what you got to do. You got to figure that out.
Now we got screens.
Well, yeah, you can do multiple.
My wife doesn't listen to this, so I could tell you I secret listen watch on the phone, right? We've all done it.
While you're playing with the kids.
The ear plug in, I put a hat on. I wish I had hair to cover it up, and she's like, "Are you listening to something right now?" I'm like,
No, baby, no. You got my full attention. Wait, they're going for it on 4th? What? Oh, no, sorry. All right. Anyway, let's dive right in here. Let's talk about the Blazers and Sinclair, KATU. You used to work there, I believe.
I did.
They have reached an agreement to start a new network. It's going to be the Blazers still producing their games, and now they're going to be showing
Vision, baby.
Blazer, yeah, well, there's that too. But they're going to appear on Sinclair channels throughout the Northwest. It's a full return to local broadcasting as opposed to the RSNs, which after about 18, 20 years, kind of drying. The money's drying up there.
Who would have thought?
They're not very viable anymore. So now their reach, they claim, is going to be 4 times what it was on Root. Root, clearly there were problems last year, and Dwayne Hankins admitted this, that, he said, hey, there was a report that our viewership dropped 49%. We absolutely believe that was in part because, one, you had Comcast jack up the price to even have Root Sports Northwest by putting it in an upper tier that cost $20 more. And they did that knowing darn well that the Blazers went on a rebuild and stunk. And they were doing so after trading away their most popular player ever. Those 3 things combined led to an empty arena and led to fans not watching. This way, Hankins said, you go to more direct to consumer through local channels like KATU and different channels across the Northwest. You reach more fans, and that during the rebuild process, it provides an opportunity for fans who may not go to a game and may not watch a bunch of games, or definitely not going to pay $20 extra a month to have access to the games, to be able to tune into some games in here, learn more about Scoot and about Shaden and et cetera. And then that, in his mind, and the Blazers' mind, is going to create more lifelong fans. Now, Dwayne is someone who grew up in Chicago. I lived in Chicago. We sometimes talk Chicago sports. And he grew up watching WGN, and that helped him become a lifelong
So did I, baby, in New York.
fan. Right. Well, yeah. And I was happy to have WNGN here in Oregon to follow my Cubs. But but at the same time, let's be real. The bottom line is that the RSN money dried up, because when you say it's all about the fans, yeah, it's all about the fans after you couldn't get the RSN money for all those years. Because basically, if you're saying it's about the fans now, and Dwayne wasn't here, I'm not blaming him. I'm just talking about the organization as a whole. That means 15, 20 years ago, when you took the deal with Comcast, knowing darn well you weren't on DirecTV, it wasn't about the fans. It was about the Benjamins, which is fine, whatever. It's sports business. That's such as life. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying what it is. But this is a better situation for the fans. It's the best situation that's ever existed, because for the first time, almost every game is going to be over the air broadcast. Like, even when they were on, back in the day when they'd be on KGW, most of the games were on NBC Sports Northwest, or back in the coin days, etc. They didn't have the majority of the games. Now they have every game not nationally broadcast, which this year there's only one national broadcast. So if you're a Blazers fan, you're going to have immediate access to 81 games if you just get any type of television service that carries KATU channels. Also, there's Blazer Vision, which is coming back, which you can get if you don't get a good signal where you live, or if you just want to have the ability to walk around and watch it on your app, which you could also do on KATU through other mechanisms. But you can have Blazer Vision through the NBA app, NBA.com, and be able to watch the game wherever you want on your phone or your laptop, etc. So, what do you think?
Well, it's a win for the fans. I mean, bottom line, we don't have details of who's paying
money
what
details,
to who.
right?
So as far as how it works for the organization, we don't know. But if you're a fan, free is me. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's free now. And I think what is mind blowing to me is, if you would have told me in 2010 that this would be happening, that professional sports teams would be returning to free television, and not just returning, but expanding to where it's almost all available on free television, I would have laughed in your face. Like, are you kidding? It's over. It's over. We lost.
Real quick, it was clear. It was clear across the country that teams were taking the money over reach. I mean, you're going to cut out 60% of my fans, but I get how much per year? Okay, where do I sign? Right.
Oh, I mean, look, I grew up in the New York market, one of the first to do it, were the Yankees. Now, the Yankees used to be on PIX and sometimes on CBS, like on the local CBS. But then, I mean, most of my life, the Knicks were on MSG. And, the Yankee, that we had a sports channel at first for the Mets, and the Yankees got on. Yes, they bought their own network, for goodness sake. That's partially now owned by Sinclair. So no one thought we were going backwards. But as you said, like, it's good and bad. It's good for the fans. It also shows how right now little the local stuff even matters to these NBA teams. Those media deals is what is really mattering, because the Blazers they could say all they want, and whatever decision they're making, it's business oriented, right? And they decided, there were no other options. No one's fighting for you anymore.
Exactly.
There was a fight before, like, who's going to get it?
There were two fights.
And now there's no fight. There's no fight. Comcast folded, and Root was like, well, okay. And now Root's like, yeah, we're probably done. They lost the Kraken. They lost now the Blazers. They're owned partially by the Mariners. Who knows what's going to happen with Root? But I think they'll be fine, because they began that way with just the Mariners. Maybe, right? But they're going to have to cut costs and things like that, unfortunately. Of course. And maybe they'll be okay. Added. Right. Maybe they'll be okay. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, it's gone backwards. No one thought Root was going backwards, right? Like they thought they were going to grow, and instead they're doing that because they had to pay they weren't making money. They decided, a business decision. We were losing money. We know Comcast paid so much for the Blazers and lost money. No one knows it more than the guy I'm talking to right now, right? I mean, so this kind of stuff is interesting. If you care about the inside baseball and business, which you and I do, and I'm interested to see what these deals will end up looking like from team side. But we also know that the Blazers, as a small market, they're more concerned with the national deals, the major deals, because that's money that'll that'll impact them more than this, obviously. So for the fan, it's free, man. Like, how do you not get pumped? And if you're the Blazers, you'd rather have more eyes right now with the thinking marathon, not sprint, right? You couldn't remain losing viewers and ticket sales. It didn't make any sense. My guess is Root didn't say, oh, we'll up it or we'll do this. I mean, nobody was working for a Root solution. You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't there. It was like, okay. Root said, okay, you could go. So they went. And for the fans, this is great. Eventually, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the sports world goes. Chicago's doing something similar. They're starting a whole network in Chicago that's going to have sports teams, on there, and it's going to be free to view. So I say, really? Yeah, it's, they've got a whole thing going. So, and
the Cubs started Marquee Network, which has been kind of up and down, I think.
But this is, the wave to go towards free television, free broadcasts. That's a good thing for fans. And I don't ever really worry about the teams. I'm okay if the billionaires are struggling. You know what I mean? So, I'm okay. They're all right. They're going to do fine, and they could sell the teams and make a gazillions of dollars. I hope that this will help the process of, for me at this point, I don't like the middle ground. I've said it before of what's going to happen with the Blazers. I think when your ownership's in flux, and they can say it's not in flux all they want, it's in flux, man. Whether the flux is 5 years or 2 years or 10 years, it's the guy who owned the team passed away. It's in a trust. It's in flux. So I just look forward to, I think this opens it up, less restrictive for a new ownership. So I say yay.
I've said this before here, and I've talked to one other person who worked at NBC Sports Northwest for a long time, and I don't have evidence of this. It's kind of circumstantial, but I think what Comcast did was calculated. I think that was retaliatory because Root stole the Blazers, which ended Comcast Sports Northwest. And so what does Comcast do? It jacks up the price for Root to this upper tier, which I believe they clearly knew was probably going to alienate the Blazers, and led to this. So now how do you even justify having that in the upper tier when it's gone from 3 to 1 team, right? Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to all of a sudden, after all these years, to say, oh, well, we're going to make Root an upper tier for everyone. Well, you're cutting off viewers from watching what was a mediocre Blazers team in this market. So I don't know. To me, it seemed calculated, and it worked because now Root lost the Blazers. Root has other issues, and the Blazers have moved on to something that's better for the fans that we agree on. All right, moving on from that. At the end of the day, it's just about money and jockeying for position to rake in more cash and for franchises that are worth doing. So at least in this case, the fans are winning out. All right, WNBA fans also winning in Portland.
Yeah, baby.
Coming back to PDX after 22 years. The Fire were here. I think they disbanded back about 2 decades ago.
2002, I think was it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something that was believed to be happening. Then it didn't. And my man Bill Orm's got to eat a shirt.
Yeah.
He said,
whoops, don't do that. Don't say that.
If we don't get a WNBA team, I'll eat my shirt. And I offered a couple times to come over. I'll barbecue it for him. I could cut up a shirt and do it in different ways, and then get some sides, but he
shirts 3 ways, right? Like,
right, exactly. But, he was like, oh, wait a minute, we're going to wait and see. And blah, blah, blah. He's lucky. I ain't fine, Bill. But I would have Bill eat a shirt. That would be good. He's got a family. But anyway. But he's been saved because
he's got
PDX. He's got family. If he was single, I'd have to see him, take him to court and make him eat the shirt. But anyway, so he's been saved from having to eat any pieces of a shirt. And we're going to have a WNBA team in 2026. Your initial thoughts?
Oh, it's great. I want more. I mean, I always want more, and I want Portland. I want Portland to have more, even if it's, not everyone's cup of tea. It's someone's cup of tea, right? Not everyone loves basketball, and they want baseball, right? But yes, I think it's great. This city supports sports. In my experience here, I think it's an underrated sports town. I think they can handle an NHL team, a Major League Baseball team. Their support of the Thorns shows that there's a real dedication to women's sports here, even though I think that's everywhere now. Luckily in the country, we're getting more of that. But yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm excited for it. And an ownership group that also owns the Thorns. I think that's great. I mean, you talk about being invested in Portland. Now you own 2 professional sports franchises in the city. To me, that means that they're going to be able to do some, partnership work with the Thorns, which will be great. So I'm excited. I have not seen a lot of WNBA games in person. I've never, I didn't live in a city in New York. I did, but I left before the WNBA I think was there. So I'm excited to have it in my city and my place to root for it. And I don't see how. When people say things that are negative about, oh, they'll never stay in support it the first time. I'm like, be quiet.
So
I'm like, be quiet. Like, just, it's not the same. And that might not have even been true. Like the model for the WNBA is in a different place right now to support the entire league and all their franchises. And so I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it always comes down to really what support means, right? So the Fire drew around 8,000. And I talked to Katie Stedding the other day. I'm working on a story talking to former Power and former Fire players and coaches about sort of their time here in Portland and what they think about it coming back. And I've talked to Katie Stedding, who's a local, hero, went to high school here, and now she's coaching at Stanford, but she played for the Power and the ABL, and she remembers it being great. She's like, we had amazing fan support, things were rolling, but that entire league folded. Right. The Fire left Paul Allen controlled that, and he didn't want it. It's what I remember. Right. And so that was just a decision that was made. It wasn't a matter of, it wasn't working here. But what does work mean? Was it profitable? No. The WNBA, we all know, has not been profitable. But the idea of the WNBA hasn't necessarily been to make a profit yet. It's been to have professional women's basketball and let it grow at whatever pace it takes. And the NBA is helping it along, which is cool, right? So the NBA is absorbing this multi-billion-dollar industry is helping, its sister league, move along into the future. So the team comes to Portland, or a new team comes back to Portland. Is it going to be profitable? I would say probably not, based on the league, but that's not going to matter. It's going to draw. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And then into the future, could it become profitable as the league continues to grow? We're seeing the Caitlin Clark effect, right? There's other star players coming up through college that are going to have a major impact in this league. And at the end of the day, I believe that at some point the WNBA will be profitable and the Portland team will be a part of that. I don't know how big. I don't think we're ever going to see $20, $30 million a year salaries or things like that. Plus, they only play half the games that the NBA plays. But anyway, I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to draw. I think it's going to be something that it gives us another thing in the summer to sort of rally around after the NBA season is over. And we still have soccer, obviously, but basically gives us another team in a sport that's very popular. And I just think it's a good time, and this is a great place for it. I think it's going to thrive. But again, is it going to make a lot of money? Maybe not, but that doesn't mean it's not going to thrive.
So, and I'll say, like you said, what's support? I'll also say what's profit. Every one of those guys every one of the team owners that bought a WNBA team, if they sold it today, would make a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, you could say what's not profitable. Like, you could talk about, MLB. Like, they say, if that cheap owner would sell the team, he'd make so much money. You know what I mean? Like, he could sell it for $1 billion. So the WNBA franchises have increased greatly. Like, what Portland is paying, what the Portland team is paying for it is way higher than previously. So I always, how profitable have the Blazers been?
There's different levels of it. Yeah.
Have the Blazers been profitable over the last couple of years? No. But he's going to.
You don't think so?
I'm just saying, like, no, I doubt it. But maybe. But I'm just saying they're going to be pretty profitable when he sells them for $2 billion. When it's sold for $2 billion.
$4 billion.
$4 billion.
3 to 4. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's some profit, right? So when you buy a house, your house isn't making money at the time, or when you buy a stock, it doesn't make you the money, but when you sell it, it does. That's profit, right? So
Right.
I would say that's the difference between the WNBA now and it was probably 23 years ago. Is that now this league is on the up, and you do have you're making headway. But again, what do I mostly care about? Fans and people, right? And what they're going to enjoy, and they're going to enjoy it, and it'll be good. And it is still nice to have more, women's sports and women leaders, so that younger people and older people can see that. I'm glad to have a WNBA team, so that my son can watch the WNBA, and not just watch male sports. You know what I mean? And see that. Because at 7, he plays with everybody. And he's asked me, why are there no women on the Yankees? And so, and I'm not good at explaining anything, right? So, but anyway, I think it's great. It's great for the city.
You can't explain that to him?
I can, but I'm just saying, it's cool to have more for people to be able to offer. People talk about the Blazers and not winning a championship, and that sometimes they forget when they say there hasn't been a parade. The Timbers parade for championships have been awesome. You know what I mean? And no, were they as big as a Portland Trailblazers parade would be? No, but I'm all about winning championships. If the WNBA team can win a championship, I'm happy, because I don't know when the Blazers are going to win one. So I say let's go. I want to pick the name though, just me and you.
Yeah. So I looked into the expansion, the rules for expansion teams, and if they get the number 1 pick in the draft, not the expansion draft, the draft.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, they do not, which means that Juju Watkins probably won't be coming to Portland, because that would have been ideal, right? Because I think she has to play a whole nother year, so she would come out in 26. The first year the Portland team would start. She is going to be a baller, and she's, I know it might be sacrilege to say this, but she could even be better than Caitlin, because she's a little bigger and more athletic and can do all the same things Caitlin does. But star power is going to be huge for the long haul, right? If they could somehow trade down the line to get Sabrina back, I mean, that's one of those fancy things about, bring back someone who's
she's a free agent. But she's a free agent after 2025.
Right, but she's not from Oregon. She just played a few years.
She's not.
So the idea that she's going to be sitting there going, I'm going back to Portland, when she's in New York, right, playing for a contender.
Right, and she's from California.
Right. So if anything, yes. So her choosing Oregon, unless unless someone throws a bunch of money at her, it doesn't hurt to try. It's just I don't think it's a natural draw for her, because she was in Oregon for 3 years, right? But Jazzy Davidson's going to USC, so I tweeted earlier, Jazzy Davidson to Portland in 2028 confirmed. You get someone like that. But that's,
I like that.
But that's
she hasn't played a college game, Fentress. No pressure, right? You're not putting
no pressure. Come be the savior of the PDX franchise. But no, it's gonna be interesting to see. Expansion teams are always fun to watch, sort of how they, come about and grow, and how they will evolve, over time. And there's going to be some lean years. There are, but those lean years could lead to you landing, a generational star. I hate that word, but still, Caitlin Clark is definitely generational. You get someone like that, and that propels you forward. All right. Speaking of generational stars, according to the Blazers,
we're going to talk about fans.
According to the Blazers, some fans, the Blazers have 8. Just kidding. Anyway, we're going to do our guards preview. All right. So media day is Monday. Training camp starts Tuesday. Fan Fest is next Saturday, a week from this Saturday, the 5th. And then the first preseason game will be in Seattle on the 11th. We have done previews on the centers and the forwards, and now we're going to knock out a preview of the guards, easily the most interesting position on this team. You have Scoot, you have Shaden, and you have Ant, household names by their first names and nicknames. I'll give you the floor first. What do you want to see this season from that group as a whole?
All that matters is, in a way, is the development of Scoot and Sharp. That's the key.
Podcast over. All right, we'll catch you next week.
What I mean?
Okay.
I just think that when we're really talking about it, if those guys elevate to a place where you're like, oh, these are all-stars in the making, you've got the start of a franchise awakening. You know what I mean? If they don't, you're looking to get Cooper Flagg as your savior. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at the roster, what else is there to hope for? You don't, the expectation, Donovan Clingan's not going to be a franchise changing piece that, unless things, crazier things have happened, but Jokic changed the Nuggets, right? And no one knew that. So it's a possibility, but yeah, I mean, I don't like to oversimplify things because I don't ever do that. I usually got to get into, like, well, this, no, to me, I don't know how else you could read it. Like, are you really going, well, I think it's all about the Denny Avaya. And if he could be I mean, like, I don't see how this franchise right now can look at any other part as the make or break part of their season. I mean, do you see anything else?
100%. So your best player is Anthony Simons, period, on the team. And then your potential point guard of the future, who, as a franchise, you basically chose to select him and keep him rather than trade him to help Damian Lillard. And that will always be a component for me for this, is that was the decision you made for this guy. You chose Scoot over Dame. No way around it. All right. So there's a lot of pressure on that pick, on Joe Cronin for doing what he did, and on Scoot. And then you have Shaedon, who looks to be the most gifted of the three, right? But you're not going to be able to keep all three unless you get into a situation where Shaedon and Scoot falter to the point where when you re-sign them, you're re-signing them on the cheap, and one of them is a backup to the other two, right? That could work, but there's no way you're going to keep the two youngsters as your starters and also keep Anthony, because he's better than them. He's going to continue to get better. He's going to be a free agent in 2 years. You're going to have to make a decision there. So what they need to figure out in the next couple of years is, are they going to go Scoot Sharp or Ant Sharp? There's no Scoot Ant. If they were to somehow try and pretend, like, they might start the season Scoot Ant like they did last year, and that's fine, because it's a throwaway season. The goal is Cooper Flagg. But long term, that's not a thing. I will never take this franchise seriously if that's like, oh, this is our backcourt. I'm like, yeah, okay, the Blazers are doomed. They're never.
Well, they already told you it wasn't a thing when they traded CJ. They had it. It worked really well.
Right.
It got you 50 wins every year.
Playoffs, 8 straight years.
Right. Yeah. Got you pretty much into the second round with a potentially more. Once it got you into the Western Conference Finals, right? And those guys, both those guys right now, better than these guys are, and it's not even close.
Right. It's not close yet. So now last year, they came out with Scoot Ant. And what happened there is that it's just because you have Ant who can play both, right? So what was the better fit? I think we all know Ant Sharp, you win more games. But they're trying to develop Scoot, and Scoot is probably a better pure point guard in terms of what the things a point guard has to do other than shooting and scoring. So you could argue Scoot Ant last year. I don't know if you can argue that this year, because I think it's clear to everyone that Ant and Shaedon win more games. So Scoot has to really elevate his game if he's going to become, I think, the starter. If not, then you're going to go with Ant Shaedon. However, the problem with that is that at the end of the day, it almost doesn't matter, because if Chauncey decides this, right? If Chauncey decides this is my best comment, because like Chauncey's going to coach to win, right? He's going to try and win every game. That's his job, regardless of what he has to work with. And I think he's shown, even in the face of blatant tanking. And when I mean blatant, I mean when Malcolm Brogdon is on the trade market and then you can't trade him, and then magically he has elbow tendonitis that knocks him out for the entire season, when your record with him in the lineup accounted for most of your victory, right? So that was blatant tanking. There was nothing wrong with Malcolm Brogdon. He could have played. If they were a good team, if you were a contender, he would have played, right? That's just blatant. So if you're going to do that, then the combination that ends up working for you, if it's crushing it, you're going to start doing things to make it, to not allow it to crush you, to crush other teams. So let's say Ant and Shade are killing it. It's like, oh my God, look at these two. They're just balling out. How do you combat that if you're trying to lose? Well, you just reduce their minutes just enough and play Scoot just a bit more to hurt your overall efficiency, and then losses come. So it's going to be interesting to see how they juggle that, because they are going to want to lose while Chauncey's wanting to win and find the best combination to win. And at the end of the day, I think plugs will be pulled along the way to make sure they're in position to get Cooper Flagg. That said, you have to come out of the season knowing what you're doing. Like, you have to know, which direction am I going? What's my backcourt? It's either Ant Shaden or it's Scoot Shaden, and then Ant's got to go. And if you can trade Ant for something better that fits, all the merrier moving forward. But to me, those things have to play out this year, or it's a bust.
Yeah, see, to me, I hear what you're saying, but I think they already made their decision when they drafted Scoot.
But okay, they made. I know, but what if Scoot
to me it's ridiculous.
No, but what if he doesn't develop? What if he doesn't develop?
But I mean, you got to see.
Then you got to keep Ant.
I guess, but to me, you put all your eggs in this basket when you decided to draft him. He's only in year 2. Right. He's got to play. He's got to play.
He's gonna play. That's not.
I mean, he's gonna play. You don't draft a guy 3rd overall to come off the bench in year 2 on a team that wants to lose.
And that's the delicate balance.
It doesn't make sense, man.
But if Chauncey's given, if Chauncey's given by Cronin, and we'll find out next week, if he's given by Cronin the right to coach the team the way he wants to coach it to try and win, then we could very easily see Scoot coming off the bench. And the thing is, with the three guards, he can still get 28, 30 minutes off the bench. And he can still develop. Like, the idea that you have to start to develop, it's just nonsense. It's asinine to me. You don't have to start to develop. You can play 28 minutes. Sometimes it's better. If you're not capable of handling yourself against NBA starters, it's best you come off the bench against NBA backups and learn your craft and then elevate up to playing better players. It makes no sense to throw you to the wolves and have you look as bad as Scoot did the first 4 months of the season. That accomplishes absolutely nothing. So what I'm saying is, if Chauncey's given free reign to do what he wants to do, and it comes out and it's like Ant and Shaden are killing it and Scoot just doesn't have it, then you have to start thinking down the line. Do we trade Ant, or do we keep Ant as our backcourt, as our lead guard with Shaden, and then Scoot's a backup for a while until you make a decision what to do with him, because you're not going to be able to move Scoot if he doesn't live up to his potential. So you might as well keep him around, but you're going to keep him around for cheaper. You're smirking. I'm just saying, these are all the different ways this.
I know, but these are things that should not be part of your. Like, you made some decisions. Like, you decided when you drafted Scoot 3rd overall, when you had Ant and Lillard on your team, that this guy was the point guard of your future. But if you've already given up on that, and you want to lose, Ant's not going to lose. He's good. He's really good. Okay, Ant and Shaden are not very good defensively. So they're both going to put up numbers on offense, but in terms of overall team efficiency, they're not going to necessarily be a winning combination right now. But you can shake your head all you want, but 20, is he 26 or 25?
Who?
Ant.
I think he's about to turn 25. Let me look him up real quick for you.
I'm just saying, he is a vet now in this league.
He hasn't hit his prime yet.
Not, or like, you hope not, and you hope people think that because you hope that someone
turned 25. Turned 25.
Right. So I mean, he's 25 years old. He's been in the league. He is not going to be worse than Scoot right now. He's not. It's not possible. He's better.
Okay, but hold on. Listen, you're not listening to the nuance.
The better guy. I know what you're saying, but you're the GM. You decided. You knew what you had with him. You knew what you had with Lillard. And you drafted a point guard 3rd overall. Like, you made a decision, man. Like, so own it and trade him. Give him, set him free. Trade
Ant?
Yes.
Okay, but
you made the decision. Like, it makes no sense to me. And you want to lose.
Okay, but they want to lose now. They don't necessarily want to lose in the future. So what I'm saying is, if they realize that Scoot is not generational, that he's not transcendent, and you blow out Ant for Scoot, you're doomed into the future. It may come to a point where you realize
you put your eggs in this basket. So you're trying to say.
Well, that's like what's going on with the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young. They drafted him number 1 overall. He can't get it done, so they bench him. They play Andy Dalton, a veteran, and he throws 3 touchdowns. My point is, at some point, you may have to admit you made a mistake. I'm not saying that point has come yet. Scoot has only played 1 year. I'm not giving up on him. I'm saying that down the line,
All
if
right, that's
he
a heck of a
if he doesn't develop and show that he can actually be an impact star, and he's nowhere as good, ever going to be as good as Ant is, then you can't just give away Ant and start Scoot for the next 6 or 7 years because you're killing yourself. That's what I'm saying.
I hear you. I'm just thinking that that's not how it's usually done. And the reason why it's not usually done is because it's a heck of a balance. You're basically telling Anthony, hey, I know you've been in flux your whole career because we had Damian Lillard and CJ. And now we traded Damian, but now you're still in flux because now we got you and we got Scoot, and we don't know what we're going to do yet. Well, but are you still cool with that? Like, no, at some point, you're not, but I am not cool with that. I cannot be cool with that.
You're literally ignoring the nuances of what I'm saying. I'm not saying 3-4 years down the road. I'm saying
no, I'm talking about
after this season. So, okay, but if Ant has a chance to still be the lead guy on this team, he's going to be fine with it. That's what I'm saying. So we said the topic was, what do we want to see this season? What I'm saying is they need to figure out by the end of the season which direction you're going with these guards. And what I'm saying is I think it's altogether possible that the proper direction could be Ant Scoot. Sorry, Ant Sharp as your backcourt moving forward. And then Scoot is a backup for a while, and then maybe you try, huh?
What? That would kind of stink.
Why?
Because you know what you could have done? You could have had Sharp and Lillard. I'm just saying, like, you drafted the guy 3rd overall. You're saying I'm missing the nuance.
There's no doubt.
Punch in the face.
No, I'm not missing that at all. I'm just saying that sometimes you just have to admit a mistake.
Well, that's why you're asking me why it would stink. It would stink because you had Sharp and Lillard and Ant. And so if you decide that Scoot's not the guy and go back to Ant as the guy, like, you just wasted 2 years.
Of course. It would be a huge whiff. Right? But right now, after the rookie season, it's a 1 and 2 count against them.
Right? Wow, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's like two and 2. I mean, come on, it's 1 year.
It's a 1 and 2 count.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a 1 and 2 count. He has to make.
And look, I like Ant, but they decided in my world, right? They decided Ant's not something you can build around for championship. They kind of made that decision when they drafted Scoot. I mean,
I don't think they necessarily made that decision. I think they made. Hold on a sec, dude. You skip steps sometimes. Listen, they made the decision to trade CJ to clear a runway for Ant, and then Ant plays with Damian, right, for 1 year. And then they bring in Shaden. So now you have a legit 2 guard. So now, since you traded Dame, that opens the door up for Ant to compete with Scoot. But if Scoot doesn't deliver, then you can shift back to Ant, and they would have made a mistake. Just because they selected Scoot and call him generational transcendent doesn't mean he's going to be that. And if he's not, and you give away Ant, then you're jacked. But if Ant stays healthy and can play a full season with Shaden, I guarantee you those guys are going to be spectacular together offensively. And then you're like, okay, now we can go Ant, Shaden, Denny, Cooper Flag, and Klingon moving forward with Ant as your guy. Because do you remember when Ant first came back last year? He was ripping it up, and then he got sick. Then he got sick, and then something else happened, and then they pretty much shut him down. Anthony Simons at age 25, he's been in this league for 6 years now. If he's healthy, is going to destroy. He's going to average 25. I'm going to draft him in my fantasy league 3rd round like I did last year. He's going to average 25 a game if they give him the shots, which I think they will. He's going to take a huge leap. And I think he's going to dwarf Scoot to the point where it very easily could be a situation where they're like, our best combination moving forward is Ant and Shaden.
Well, you've done that. You made some big mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, that's the part. Like, if you think that Ant and Sharp are the thing, then you should have drafted that forward.
They should have done a lot of things.
I'm just saying, like, to me, that's an amazing admission of mistakes, and your front office probably doesn't survive it.
Well, that's another topic for another day.
You're basically telling me that I don't doubt. To me, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't give. The only reason to give Ant the opportunity to go off is to increase his trade value. like based on that scenario. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's almost like you're a different GM and you took over. Like that makes sense if you're new and you look at the situation and go, hey, I didn't draft Scoot. I didn't trade Dame. I like what I've seen from Ant is really good. And I love the guy and I want to give him a chance. But you're not new. You did this stuff with a plan. And to me, the plan was obviously you didn't think Ant was your future point guard because you drafted Scoot while you still had Dame. And if you thought that Sharp and not Scoot was the guy, you had two guys ready right there that you knew could ball. Damian Lillard, maybe the greatest player in franchise history, and Ant, who was a proven 20-something scorer that maybe you weren't sure could be the point guard that you wanted, so you drafted Scoot. Like, if you bail on that plan, like, already, that's an admission that is a heck of an admission that the plan you had when you drafted Scoot, which forced Dame to ask for a trade, was bad.
Listen, if we go back and look at every decision this Cronin and this administration, this front office has done, there's a ton of absolute misses and then things that are 1 and 2 counts, like I said. It's just a fact. And that's why, and Cronin said it, Cronin went from we have enough talent on this team to be competitive to last year saying, oh yeah, we don't have enough talent on this roster. Well, who's been in charge of building the talent for 3 years? He had. So, but here's the thing with Scoot. Scoot as a point guard in terms of pass first, distributing, penetrating, those things, he's better at that than Ant. But he has to improve as a shooter, right? If he does improve as a shooter, then that balances things back out to where you say, okay, he's a better point guard, maybe not a better all-around player, but a better point guard. And then you can justify.
Not 1994.
And you can, meaning, you mean you can't get away with not shooting at all?
No. You can't be a lead. Well, you can't be a star guard now. A star.
Ja Morant's not a great 3-point shooter. And he's not,
but now you've taken your athletic ability and ability to score to a level that's ridiculous, right? And Scoot's not there. He doesn't have that size.
They're the same size. He's bigger and they're the same height. But anyway,
they have the same height. I thought Ja was taller.
No, he plays taller, but he's listed 6'3".
His arms are longer.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, it's all a mess until we see what Scoot does this season. We see if he develops or not. And you're not wrong. If they make that admission, that's a huge whiff on that, no doubt. But if that means you hit on Ant and Shaden, then moving forward, you're okay because, like you said, if you add Cooper Flag to that. But again, it's about if you add 10 pieces and 5 work out and 5 don't, that doesn't mean you failed overall.
You keep saying, and you add Cooper Flag. Like, you add Cooper Flag, the whole world is different, dude. Like, this guy is supposed to be a true generational talent.
I love that. I love to make it sound like that's a given. They're going to get Cooper Flag.
You're like to say, and you add Cooper Flag.
All right,
they're going
to have the top 5 picks in draft, bro.
I'm just saying, if you get Cooper Flag, like, who cares? You get any of those point guards will be fine.
If you're adding Cooper Flag to a dynamic backcourt, that's a bigger deal than if you have a. That's a bigger deal than adding him to a team without a lead guard because you traded Ant and Scoot's not it. It's like, anyway, real quick, we're going to be able to argue about this all season long. We're
going to see, and some of this has to do with. It's fascinating because we're going to find out probably pretty quick within the first 10 games what's going on with the guards because none of the other ones matter.
We can hope until one gets hurt and then we don't know.
Right, but I'm just saying, this is what's amazing about this season. This argument right here, this is it. This is all of it. None of it nothing else matters. Everything else is gravy or side dishes. Like if Denny's better than expected, yay, gravy. You know what I mean? Like if Kamara looks like a player that's really part of you're like, oh, side dish. But all that matters and all we're going to argue about is this. And it's sort of fascinating because it's all you got when you're not looking to make the playoffs.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't think we solved anything, but we talked a lot.
We solved nothing except for the fact that we do have 2 different perspectives on this.
Well, I think we're closer than you think. I just think it seems like you're leaning more towards you cannot give up on Scoot no matter what. Whereas I'm like, well, if Ant and Shaden dominate together, then you got to make that choice. And you got to say, oh, Scoot was a mistake.
Here's what the difference is right now. I don't see Greg. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're seeing more Greg, which is we're both two people that don't often see gray. So you're seeing gray, right? You're seeing it doesn't have to be this, this or that. It could be to me, they made the choice already. It's Scoot. And you're saying slow your roll. Like, no, that's stupid. And you might be right. And maybe I'll have to rethink. And we'll see. I just thought the Blazers made that decision when they made the pick, when they drafted Scoot, when they had Ant, they had Lillard, they made their decision. You're saying they might have made the decision at the time, but it doesn't mean they have to commit to it completely, and Ant's still an option. I hear that. I can't feel it yet, but I'm excited to see if that's true, if there's a chance that could be it.
Okay, real quick. Any depth you like? Matisse, Banton, Devontae Graham. Am I missing anyone else? Is there another great guard on the team I'm forgetting about?
No. I mean,
okay.
I feel bad for Matisse. Matisse doesn't belong on his team.
No, he shouldn't.
Hostage. I mean, he's not helping them.
Yeah. Banton and Graham are filler. They can eat minutes and help you lose. They're not neither one of them.
Yeah, and Murray's might be a two. But,
the idea of him playing two makes no sense to me.
Well,
all right. Well, that's enough about them. All right. Good job. So, as I said, training camp starts next week. So media day's Monday. So we'll be back to, we'll see. We're going to find out what everyone has to say about what we just talked about at the media day, because I'm going to be asking all these questions to Ant and not Shaden. Shaden won't give you an answer to Scoot, to Billups, to Cronin, etc. And we'll see what they say next week, and we'll be back with another edition of the Blazer Focus Podcast.